So this is for those who are on the awakening slash enlightenment path. You can call it awakening to spirit, to the primal reality, to the connection to all things, the transcendent, universal consciousness, consciousness itself, source, etc. It's all one thing. It's all one happening. We can separate it into categories and names that's relevant for the journey and for exploring the spiritual science that is tapping into spiritual wisdom, and for those who are able to channel that information. And some things, once you know them, they correlate with others and they just are so. So it's truth by the fact that things just lend themselves to be so, right? But it's still not the words that we use, even though it is, because it's relevant for our expansion and trying to understand this path and how it all connects with our own individual journey, the world, the collective, and the rest of the universe, I guess you can say. But most people are lost on the awakening path. And they get sucked into other people's worlds and perceptions and projections. Which at the end of the day, it's all data. So there's nothing necessarily bad about it. Because all of this is here for our contrast, for our own discernment, for our own individual journey. And people want to fantasize and romanticize the journey themselves, spirituality, spirit. When truth is already stranger than fiction. But people are stranger than truth. So unless you've already been on the awakening path for quite some time, and you've done a certain amount of ego purification, study, meditation, inquiry, where you've purged yourself of many limiting beliefs of not just yourself, but the nature of reality and spirituality. It's not the easiest traversing that landscape with all that seems to be available and relative to your own journey. I'll tell you, for most of you, it's not relative to go super deep into the esoterics or the metaphysics or trying to figure out if you're, some Pleiadian being from another dimension operating as a human being. Because ultimately, that doesn't even matter. And it's just more smoke and mirrors. It's just more ego wanting something. And I'm not even saying that there's not a realm of where that is possible. For I've had many experiences. But they are within the dimension of consciousness. And spirit, which is intelligence, which is consciousness, is beyond anything we can imagine. its intelligence, its awareness is beyond anything we can comprehend. Somehow, as much as we cannot truly wrap our heads around it, there is a dimension where all things are happening right now. Because only the now exists. So all is happening in the now. So there's not multi-universes as much as there is all time happening now. Because it's happening at a quantum level, beyond a quantum level. Just as we have quantum computers, which are not even close to what I'm talking about. But quantum computing is essentially that. All information and data is being processed essentially in the now. So if we little humans can create a quantum computer, which is using the physics and the nature of reality for that to happen, obviously something beyond the 3D, something beyond the physical, something transcendent of it all, is operating on a scale that's beyond that, but similar to that. Quantum computer is the coldest thing that we know in the universe. We've created the coldest environment for quantum computing to be able to exist. The atoms have to not move, essentially, so they make it so cold so that there's no movement in the atoms. But I digress. It's neither here nor there. What I'm trying to say is, it's all it. It's all a reflection and a mirror of itself. So everything that you experience, everything that you think that is, or that you are, or whatever, through separation, is it, including yourself. It is very much aware of that. And it is also aware that you are a human being. You are a limited consciousness, at least most of the time. So it's created this journey of self-discovery, of leading you back to yourself, which is the all that is consciousness, God, the transcendent. And Buddha and Jesus and Krishna and all these different totems or beings are meant to be a reflection, a mirror for all enlightened beings, for all anointed beings, because we all are anointed. We all are Christ. You see? We all are already awake. We all are already enlightened. It's something that already exists. We have just separated ourselves from it. Part of it is the whole point of reality, of the journey back to self. Because everything is leading back to self. And not just the self that is you, the ego self. It's the true self that is beyond, that is transcendent. And in that space is where you have the direct experience with that as that. And it creates a conscious shift for yourself to where you have a knowing and also a taste of what it is to be purely, completely liberated from everything. From the search, from needing answers because there are no questions. It is a non-dual reality. But most non-dualists don't have direct experience. They have a mental shift. And many of them are denying reality, and they're scapegoating, and they're bypassing. Some still have relevant teachings. You know, you can gather wisdom from many aspects and many people and expressions of people that are even still heavily distorted, right? Because there is a spectrum of being, there is a spectrum of awakening. You awaken to yourself, of your shadow. You awaken to that you are consciousness. You awaken to that you are a soul. You awaken to that you are not even all that you are beyond that. You are the transcendent. You are the non-dual reality. You are the pure awareness that is constant and where everything arises from and comes back to. So if you're lost in the chatter, the questions, am I a Pleiadian? What are my past lives? You're clinging onto your crystals. You're letting some weirdo do light language and believing somehow that's healing you. And it's not. You may allow yourself to heal yourself because you're giving yourself the permission to heal. You're creating that space for yourself to allow it to happen, and you're using a external source as a placebo effect. But it's just your delusion and their delusion. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, I suppose, as long as there is a net positive. But for the most part, it causes distortion. It leads people further down a path of woo-woo spirituality without direct experience, without truly having an honest pursuit of truth, regardless of what it is that they're trying to know or experience. The ego is lazy. The ego is comfortable in clinging on to all these things. The different forms of spirituality, the different perceptions, right? Women want it to be a feminine energy, call it her, she. The kundalini, it's a her, whatever. You know, it's all ego. It's so limiting and foolish. But at the same time, it's all necessary. It's all part of the process. So that we can see the ego, so we can see the shadow, so we can see our limitation and the limits that we're putting on things. So we have the contrast of others, right, to learn from as examples. And people don't need to know this non-dual primal reality, the enlightenment, to be graceful, powerful spiritual beings. But those are far and few between. The level of ego purification and the amount of experiences and stillness and purging of the ego and knowing the many ego traps and the constant back and forth pendulum swinging to really flesh out yourself, and also to have a grounded perception of a spiritual reality that encompasses all, including yourself and others, to where you're not denying separation, you're not denying your existence, you're not denying your ego, you're not denying your character, but you see through it, and you work to become less confined by your own ego identity, by your own urges, by your own, the chemical warfare that's happening within your own mind and your hormones, being led by them rather than being a conscious player and observer. It takes a lot to be able to be a seer, to see it all. To see the beauty in the 3D, but also the absurdity that it is. It's a paradox. Once you've had that shift, the fact that people don't just accept that there's more is baffling. Because of course there is. Just because you can't say for sure, because you need data or empirical, proof and all this through the physical and through the scientific method. They'll never get there. Because it's through them. Jesus said, the only way is through me. For one, he didn't say that. Someone 40 years later or whatever wrote down some stuff. What Jesus was saying was the only way to the kingdom of heaven. To experience God in its transcendent nature, to be connected to it, to be it, to know no separation. There is no separation. To get the downloads, the information, the instant intuition that will take plenty of time to integrate, because it's just a moment, and there will be a conscious shift, and things will unfold in that moment, and it'll be a catalyst, but it certainly is a process to ground that. But the only way is through you. It's through your consciousness. Because we all have it. It's all right there. The ego is very strong. All we know is separation. Our subconscious, everything is operating from a place of separation. We have evolved in separation. It's very hard to give ourselves the power, to truly empower ourselves by being it, to not feel inferior to it, because you are it. And some people get a God complex. It can create ego inflation. It more than likely will, for a time, on some spectrum. But to truly know yourself in the way that I'm speaking, it is love. You love yourself because it is you, and it loves you because you are it. But it loves you beyond measure. It loves you unconditionally. These aren't even the words. The words can't describe it. All we can say is love, bliss, ecstasy. So learn stillness. Create a practice to become still. Still your mind. Become the observer. So that you truly can process. So that you truly can be able to receive. To get the initiation after initiation after initiation. And then to integrate those experiences. Because people might act as though, once you know the non-dual reality, then it's all just out the wind and you don't identify with your ego and, you become this floating, formless, disassociated person. Which there is a level of grace to that. And I've been there. But that's not integrated completely as being a human. But there is no judgment, so there is no dogma. There is no way to be. You don't have to wear a white cloak, meditate 10 hours a day, speak very slowly and calmly, and talk about the divine presence that is in all of us, right? Like, there's a place for that. And again, some are, they're legit, they're genuine. But we're not all meant for that. In fact, 99.9% probably aren't. Know that you are loved. Death is not real. Nothing dies. Open your heart to life, to receive. Accept yourself for what you are. Accept yourself for where you're at. Surrender to the process. Stop thinking it needs to be anyway, or that you know, especially that anyone else knows. Hell, I don't know. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm not proving anything to you right now. I'm just speaking. I am the universe, speaking to itself through technology that's taking my voice, putting it into binary, processing it, and bringing it back to you through space. We don't even truly know really how exactly it works. The why is always there to everything. So very much it's a journey of acceptance, surrender, and constantly letting go. Free fall down the spiritual path without grabbing on to things so much. Free fall. Grab onto something for a little while, play with it, experiment with it, Let it go. Whatever is meant to stay will stay. Whatever you're meant to get out of the practice, the philosophy, the teaching, the experience, whatever catalyst it is, even if it feels like you're on the totally wrong path, well, there you go. So pivot. Make a move. Or come to pure stillness. And you don't have to do shit. Because there's nothing to do. There's nowhere to go. You are no one. That is the primal reality. That is the ultimate knowledge. But it is also just an aspect, a truth, though it be the highest of truths. Everything else is still relevant. And if you truly know this, then nothing can faze you. Nothing anyone could say could take you from it. Nothing could happen and take you from it, at least not for ever. Shit happens, and sometimes you just are that, whatever that situation is lending itself to be and lending you to be. But you can always come back to center, to truth. Complete liberation, complete freedom. There's no judgment, but there is alignment. There's no one way, but there is truths that lend themselves to be so. There is a spiritual science here. But be okay not knowing until you know. Or just let it all go. It doesn't matter. No one's judging you but yourself and others. Be good. Live life. Love life. Help someone. Keep it simple. Because it definitely can get complex. And sometimes you have to go through the complexity to know the simplicity. I still play in the ethers. I still play in the spiritual realm. Because this is all spirit. Don't get it twisted. So the synchronicities, the divine guidance, all of that, it's there. You just gotta try to just see it and not make it. Because then you're just in your own distortion. And good luck figuring out what is genuine and what is just your projection. But that's part of the process, I suppose. There is a spirit realm, there is a shamanic realm. I play in it. But I know I am it. There is no separation. At the end of the day, it's still all smoke and mirrors. Every atom, every particle is just part of it. More smoke, more mirrors. It's all just a mirroring reality. It's an ascension mirror. Be it. And when you truly can let go, hopefully it doesn't take a traumatic experience. It'll rush in. and you'll get it. And everything I said will make sense. Let go to let in. Let go to receive. And these truths are just mirrored in reflection in our own lives. And then it becomes applicable to the human experience. So much grace is here. It's all grace. Even if it feels messy. It's pure potentiality, man. It's free will with a little love and guidance. A lot of love. It's the only way, man. It was the only fucking way. It's already happened, folks. Simulation has been ran, and we are living it. Namaste.